7 years. That's how long this couple had gone without sex. Not a rough patch, not a dry spell. 7 years. And they were still together, still showing up to soccer games and family dinners and holiday photos, still on paper, a couple. But when they sat across from me, something was unmistakable. She was furious at everything, all the time. He couldn't figure out why. And then she said something that stopped the room. If he would just show me affection, if he would just be intimate with me, all of my anger would go away. He looked at her in shock, like she was speaking a foreign language. She looked at him like she's been saying it for years. And here's the thing, she had been, just not in words. Notice what she said. She didn't say, if we would just have sex. She said affection, intimacy, being seen, being wanted, desired. Because for her and for so many people, the sex and the affection are the same conversation. They're both saying the same thing. I still choose you. You still matter. You are still desired. And when both of those disappear, it doesn't just affect the bedroom, it affects everything. The way you talk to each other, the way you fight, the way you sit in the same room and somehow feel completely alone. Today we're going to talk about what really happens when affection and sex disappear from a relationship. Because most couples don't see it coming until they're already deep inside it. If something has gone quiet in your relationship, this video is for you. First, I want to be clear about who am I talking about. I'm not talking about couples who have made a conscious, mutual agreement to have a sexless marriage. That exists. It's valid. It works for some couples, right? I'm sure we all know them. I'm talking about something different. I'm talking about couples who used to have sex, who used to touch each other, who used to reach for each other in small everyday ways, a hand on the back, a kiss that meant something, a hug that lasted, and then slowly, quietly, without ever having one big conversation about it, they stopped. And here is something important I want you to understand. It often doesn't feel the same to each partner. One partner is grieving the sex, the other is grieving the affection, and they are both in pain, but they're speaking different versions of the same language and completely missing each other. The partner who wants more sex isn't just asking for a physical act. They're asking, do you still want me? Am I still desirable to you? Do I still matter? And the partner who wants more affection isn't withholding sex to punish. They're saying, I cannot open myself to you physically when I don't feel emotionally seen. I need to feel wanted before I can feel desire. Two people, same wound, talking past each other. And underneath both of them, the same question. Do you still choose me? When that question goes unanswered long enough, through distance, through silence, through the absence of touch, the rejection starts to accumulate. And that accumulated rejection, that is where the anger lives. That is where the distance comes from. That is where the couple who seems fine on the surface is quietly coming apart on the inside. And I want to say something before we go any further. This is more common than you think. I don't mean slightly common. I mean, I hear version of this story every single day in my office. A year without real affection. 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, like this couple. And almost every time, the couple sits across from me with this look, the mix of shame and relief, because they thought they were the only ones. They thought something was uniquely broken about them. They thought other couples weren't dealing with this. They are wrong. The silence around this topic is not because it doesn't happen. It's because no one talks about it. You don't bring it up at dinner with friends. You don't post about it. You carry it privately. Each partner in their own version of this story. Both of them wondering how they got here. So if this is you, if you recognized yourself in any of what I just said, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not alone. And you are not beyond help. What you are is a couple who needs to find their way back to each other. And that is entirely possible. So what actually happens to a relationship when affection and sex disappear? Most couples would tell you, we have a sex problem or a communication problem, or we just grown apart. But here's what I see in my office and what most couples are completely blindsided by. The loss of affection and sex didn't just affect the intimacy, it affected everything. The way you speak to each other, the way you argue, whether you give each other the benefit of the doubt or assume the worst, whether a small comment lands as a joke or a wound, whether you feel like teammates or opponents. The physical and emotional intimacy was the invisible part holding all of it together. And when it disappeared, quietly, gradually, everything built on top of it started to shift. The relationship becomes functional. You're still roommates, still co-parents, still partners in logistical sense, but the warmth, the invisible current that makes ordinary moments feel like home, that starts to go cold. And couples almost never connect those dots. They come to me fighting about money, parenting, or the fact that he never listens or she is always critical. And when we go deeper, when we get to the real landscape of the relationship, almost always the affection and physical intimacy have been gone for a long time. The loss of closeness didn't cause all of those fights, but its absence created the conditions for all of them. Because when you feel chosen by your partner, when you feel desired, wanted, seen, you have more patience, more generosity, more grace. And when you don't, everything gets harder. Everything feels like more evidence that something is wrong. That is not a coincidence. That is the relationship running on empty. The first thing to go is the spontaneous touch. The kiss hello that used to linger becomes a peck, and then a habit, and then an obligation. The hug that used to mean I see you because something you do because it would be strange not to. Then the hugs start to shorten. The hand holding fades. The casual touch, a hand on the shoulder, fingers brushing in passion, disappears entirely. You are technically still touching, but the electricity is gone. And here is what I need you to understand. This is not a small thing. Touch is not luxury in a relationship. It is not extra credit. Physical affection is one of the primary ways human beings say to each other, I am still here. I still choose you. You are still safe with me. When that language disappears, the relationship doesn't end, but something essential goes quiet. And in that quiet, the distance grows. Let's talk about why. Because it doesn't come from nowhere. The first reason is most common. Life happens. Kids arrive, and with them comes the beautiful, exhausting, relentless shift from being a couple to being a family. Your emotional focus and your literal time and energy move from the two of you to everything else. You are tired in a way you never knew was possible. You are touched out by the end of the day. You have been grabbed and kneaded and climbed on by small humans for 12 hours, and when your partner reaches for you at night, your body honestly responds in, please, no one else touched me right now. That is real. That is human. That is understandable. But when it becomes the pattern, when distance becomes the default for months and then years, the partner on the other side begins to feel invisible. They stop reaching. The affection fades, and the distance becomes structural. The second reason is physical, and it's more common than people talk about or think. Pain during sex, hormonal changes, low libido, medication side effects, erectile dysfunction. These are medical realities that affect a huge number of couples, and they are treatable. But here is where it becomes relational. When a partner is struggling physically and refuses to address it, refuses to see a doctor, refuses to even have the conversation, the other partner doesn't just feel frustrated, they feel uncared for. Like their needs don't matter enough to be worth one appointment. That is a relational wound, not just a physical one. The third reason is unspoken resentment. Affection and sex are profoundly vulnerable. We don't open ourselves to someone we feel deeply angry at. We don't reach for someone who has disappointed us, dismissed us, or let us down in other areas of our life. When frustrations accumulate, the small ones that were never said, the hurts that were never repaired, the body shuts down as a form of self-protection. Sometimes couples think the problem is the intimacy, but the intimacy is the symptom. The resentment is the wound underneath. And the fourth reason, honestly, is simply time. No cruelly, but honestly, life compresses. The tender, erotic, affectionate part of the relationship, the part that requires attention and intention, gets quietly deprioritized until it moves to the end of the list. I want to ask you something. Do you remember the last time you and your partner were truly close, really good sex, or even just a long hug that you both melted into? A moment where you felt genuinely wanted by this person? Do you remember how you felt afterwards? I'm sure closer, softer, like the irritation you've been carrying for the 3 days suddenly seems smaller. Like you actually like this person. Like you remembered why you chose them. This is not a coincidence. That is biology. During sex and physical affection, your body releases bonding hormones, oxytocin in particular, sometimes called the closeness hormone. It creates attachment, it creates safety. It is the same hormone released when a mother holds her newborn. When couples are physically and affectionately connected regularly, they are literally biochemically staying bonded, reinforcing the emotional connection every time they reach for each other. And when that stops, the biology of closeness starts to fade too. Sex and affection are not just physical acts, they are regulators of the entire relationship. They regulate how safe you feel with each other, how much patience you have, how quickly you repair after a fight, how willing you are to be vulnerable, how much you actually like each other on an ordinary Tuesday. When couples are connected physically, affectionately, they absorb friction better. A thoughtless comment doesn't become a 3 day, argument. A stressful week doesn't become proof that you married the wrong person. But when that connection is gone, when the touch and the desire and the feeling of being wanted has been absent for months or years, the relationship loses its cohesion. Everything lands harder. Everything means more. Every small disappointment starts to feel like a pattern. Every distance feels permanent. This is why that woman in my office was furious about everything. It wasn't everything, it was one thing. She didn't feel desired. She didn't feel chosen. She felt rejected, and her body and her heart had been keeping score. Now I want to name something that almost nobody talks about because it lives in the silence between couples who have been disconnected for a long time. It feels weird to start again. When affection and physical intimacy have been absent for months or for years, an awkwardness settles in. The person who used to be so familiar starts to feel almost like a stranger. You don't know how to reach for them anymore. You don't know if it will be welcomed. You don't know if you will welcome it. And so you don't reach, and they don't reach, and both of you are lying in the same bed, 3 inches apart, each one waiting for the other to go first, and neither one does. This is not indifference. This is fear wearing the mask of distance. What I tell couples in this place is you don't have to start where you left off. You don't have to go from 0 to sex. That pressure alone can make the whole thing collapse before it even began. You start with affection that asks for nothing. A hand on the arm, sitting close enough that your shoulders touch. A hug you actually lean into instead of just performing. A kiss that lasts 2 seconds, longer than usual. These are not small things. These are the first words of a language you forgot you both spoke. And here's what I have seen happen more times than I can count. When couples commit to just that, the weird feeling doesn't last. The body remembers, warmth comes back, and slowly the 3 inches in the bed become 2 and then become 1. Another solution I truly believe in which makes people roll their eyes the moment I say it, is scheduled sex. I know it sounds clinical. It sounds like the least romantic thing imaginable. Mark it in the calendar between the dentist and the dry cleaning between 8 to 9. But stay with me, because here's what happens when couples dismiss this idea entirely. They wait for it to be spontaneous. They wait for the moment when they're both in the mood, both not exhausted, both not resentful, the kids are asleep, nothing is stressful, and the stars align. And guess what happens? They wait. And they wait and they wait and they wait, and the months pass. Being spontaneous is a beautiful thing in a new relationship. When desire is high and life is uncluttered, you don't need a plan. But in a long-term relationship with kids, careers, aging parents, and the relentlessness of adult life, waiting for desire to just strike up often just leaves you waiting. Scheduling intimacy is not about killing romance. It is about protecting space for it. The way I view it is that when you have a scheduled time, you are saying this is important. Something shifts. You stop carrying the low-grade anxiety of when is this going to happen. You stop the subtle pursuit and withdrawal that builds resentment. You both know Thursday night is ours. And here's the part people miss. What happens in that space, it's not scripted. You schedule the time, not the experience. Maybe Thursday turns into an hour of real conversation that leads somewhere warm. Maybe it's playful. Maybe it's slow and tender. Maybe one of you isn't feeling it and you just hold each other and talk. And that matters too. That is still intimacy. That is still choosing each other. What I see happen again and again is this. Couples who simply protect the time find that by Wednesday, they're already thinking about it. That anticipation, that small quiet electricity, starts to come back. And desire, which felt completely dead, reveals itself to have never actually been gone. It was just starved for space. Give it space. I have sat with hundreds of couples over more than 20 years, and one of the most consistent things I've witnessed is the shock on a couple's face when they realize how much the loss of affection and physical intimacy has been quietly ruining the rest of their relationship. They came in thinking they had communication problems, a parenting conflict, a compatibility issue, and underneath, almost always, two people who stopped reaching for each other, stopped showing desire, stopped offering tenderness, and didn't realize that everything else followed. The bedroom doesn't stay in the bedroom. It comes with you everywhere. That couple in my office, the one with the 7 years of silence between them, they didn't come in because they had stopped loving each other. They came in because somewhere underneath all of that distance, all of that anger, the hurt, all of those years of not reaching, they still wanted to feel chosen by each other. That wanting, that is everything. If you are the one who stopped reaching or the one who stopped feeling wanted, I want you to know it is not too late. The path back is not perfect. It is awkward at first and vulnerable and sometimes uncomfortable, but it starts with something as simple, as profound as turning towards the person next to you. Not with pressure, not with an agenda, just turning towards them. If this video resonates with you, please share it. There are couples who need to hear this today.